Hey guys, Coach Andrew here, coming at you live from the studio office basement. We've got another question from a friend on the World Wide Web. Our friend tells me that he is really, really lonely. He's a college student, all right? So a lot of his friends from high school, which he says he didn't have too many to begin with, have changed directions. They went to different schools. They're pursuing different things, and they have different interests now. So he doesn't have really any of his old friends anymore, and he says that he's struggling to make new ones, and he's kind of distanced from his family, doesn't have any siblings. So he's in a place now where he's trying to pursue his future, right? He's at college, he's studying, he likes his degree, he likes his classes. He's trying to improve himself, he's started working out, he's reading books, but he knows, he senses that the one thing that's holding him back the most is a lack of meaningful relationships, and he's really struggling to find friends and people he can relate to. And he wants my advice, like how do I get more friends? What should I be doing differently? And so a lot of you might be in a similar situation right now, because right now, at least in my home country, the United States, and I believe probably in the rest of the Western civilized world, there is a relationship crisis. If you're familiar with American politics or society right now, you probably know that I think there's a media crisis, there's a political crisis, we're on the verge of a huge economic crisis. There's a lot of things wrong with Western civilization right now. I mean, there is a lot that's wrong. I think it's partly because technology and social media and interconnectedness is advancing at such an astronomical pace at this point that the institutions and the organizations and the things that we have in place that are supposed to serve as the infrastructure is just too old. It's outdated, and the people in charge of the country are too old to notice that there are still problems, and there's just a huge disconnect between almost everyone and everything. And what a lot of people aren't talking about is the relationship crisis. There is a huge relationship crisis in Western civilization right now. What I mean by this is there is long-term research. I've talked about this in a couple other of my videos. I actually just filmed a video all about the relationship crisis. I've been watching some TED Talks and doing some research on this, and I wanted to share this with you guys because this is big, all right? This is really, really big. There's a lot of research that shows that good relationships are one of the most important indicators for success, for good health, for longevity. If you have good, meaningful, close, intimate relationships in your life, you're going to go further. And I talk about this in the mindset portion of my coaching program. I talk about it in the Coaching Conversion Blueprint course. There's an entire lesson called Mindset, and lesson 1.2 is called The External, and it's all about your environment. It's about your relationships, because this is so critical, you guys. This is so critical. If you have negative relationships in your life, people who are not supportive of you, people who are toxic, who complain, who don't have big goals, who don't share your ambitions or your passions or your joys, they are bad trades. It's going to hold you back. It's really going to hold you back. It's going to prevent you from living your best life. You have to surround yourself with the right people. It's absolutely critical. And in the United States, we've seen a radical rise in depression, anxiety. There's a rise in reported loneliness, reported chronic loneliness. I think it's like 35% of Americans who are older than 45 report being lonely every single day. It's almost like people just put their parents in nursing homes, right? They rather than building an in-law suite or taking care of the people who raised you, put them in a nursing home. I don't feel like people do that in the rest of the world. If you travel to Asia or the Middle East or Africa, the elders live with the family. Eventually the parent becomes the child. Eventually I'll be old and my children are going to have to take care of me, and I'm hoping that they don't put me in a nursing home. I would never put my parents in a nursing home. But what I'm getting at here is that this is awful. This is a crisis. I think millennials are the least trusting generation of Americans that have ever lived. I think only 8% reported that they trust their neighbors. Only 6 or 7% reported that they've ever had a deep conversation with their neighbors. Fewer people than ever trust strangers, right? And more than ever, you just see this syndrome where people would rather live in their phone. They'd rather be looking at Facebook or on Instagram, living in this virtual reality, than smile at a stranger on the sidewalk or, talk to someone you're sitting next to on the bus. There's just a huge, huge disconnect. And you, my friend, I want to tell you that you're not experiencing this yet. You don't have to be experiencing a social crisis or a relationship crisis yet, because what you're experiencing right now, my friend, is a normal part of transitioning into adulthood. When you're young, you have lots of friends. You're surrounded by your peers at school. It's easy to have common interests because children have the same interests. They want to have fun. They're curious. There's a couple different personality types when you're a child. It's easy to find a group to blend into. But as you become an adult, people become increasingly complex. Whether that's a good thing or not, I can't tell you. But people's interests change. They get these different perceptions of what success is. And most importantly, when people become adults, their perception of their own fears increases. They realize that the world is scary, the world is kind of ugly sometimes, and they realize that there's lots of threats. And as you become an adult, you become more aware of these things because you start to get hurt. You start to get hurt by these threats. You have your heart broken, you lose your job, you go into credit card debt, you have, a life-threatening injury, you crash your car, whatever it is, you start to realize the world's dark and you become less trusting of people and you become more fearful of your environment. And this leads to rifts growing between people who you used to be close to, people that you used to care about. It's just part of becoming an adult. And my friend, that's what you're going through right now. You're probably becoming more aware of things that are dangerous. You're becoming more aware of your fear, your own ambitions, and your friends are doing the same thing. And people start to become a little more self-concerned. They start to choose objectives and choose goals, and they move towards those things, and they generally want to do it unhindered by people who they're just not sure are in the same boat anymore. And what I want to say about that is that's okay. That's okay. Like, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to distance yourself from your friends because odds are a lot of your childhood friends are bad fits now. They're just not similar enough to you. They don't share the same ideas that you do. And they have become what I would call a bad trade. Now, here's what I mean when I say bad trade, if you haven't heard me say that before. So relationships, I want you to think about relationships like a transaction, because that's really what they are. And this might sound cold, it might sound emotionless, but just bear with me because I promise it makes sense. And if you're not willing to just change the way you think about relationships for 10 minutes, you're gonna be stuck wherever you are. But relationships are transactions, okay? So we are not friends with people. We don't choose to marry someone. We don't choose to hang around someone for no reason. The only exception to this is like coworkers, right? Because you don't choose your coworkers. But when it comes to friends or girlfriends or boyfriends, there is a transaction taking place. And you need to look at your relationships like this because it allows you to take inventory of what is being traded. Now, for most people, the first and most important thing that's being traded is a sense of belonging, right? When you make a friend, you exchange social validation, right? So I have a friend. I make him feel good because I keep him company. I call him my friend. It gives him support. It helps him believe in himself because if you're worth something, people are going to want to be near you. And if you're worthless, people are not going to want to be near you. So that's first and most important thing that's being traded, social validation. And obviously, depending upon how you treat your relationships, that can be high or low. Other things that are traded are things like humor, right? So maybe your friend is funny and you like laughing at his jokes and he makes you laugh. That's very valuable. That is social currency. I have a couple friends who are hilarious. I'm probably the least funny person in my entire group of friends. And I love that. I wouldn't trade that for anything because my friends are great. They make me laugh. And, in turn, I trade other things. I trade other things so I can have their humor. Other things you can trade are things like experience. Maybe you're someone who is really spontaneous, really ambitious, adventurous, and people hang around you because you make them do things that are exciting. Maybe you go to theme parks with them, or you say, hey, let's go to a new restaurant today. You break their old patterns, and they're attracted to you because of that. There's other reasons, like charisma, right? If you're a charismatic person who talks well, people just like to hear you talk. They like to hear your stories. Maybe you're a really good leader, right? And people are just looking for someone to help them make decisions and give them advice and bounce opinions off of. And if you find yourself constantly being asked for advice or, during deep conversations, you kind of start to talk a lot and people just get quiet and they listen, you're probably a leader. And there's also followers, and followers are incredibly valuable. And those are the people who they want, if you're a leader, you're going to hang around followers because you need people to listen to you, right? If you're significance driven, you need people around you who will validate you. And that's a trade because followers are looking for a leader and leaders are looking for followers. And we can't forget the skill trade, right? So sometimes your friend has a specific skill and hanging around them gives you access to that skill. Maybe they're really good with cars. And if they're your friend, you know that if you ever have car problems, you can count on them to come help you with your car. And like, for example, I am a strength coach and a personal trainer and a nutrition coach. So a lot of my friends, they utilize that skill. I have many friends who work out with me regularly. I have two friends, Nick and Mike, who came and worked out with me for over a year. I helped them lose weight and slim down. They got really, really strong, and we had a ton of fun doing it, right? I was trading my skill, my weightlifting skill, and my strength coaching skill for their social companionship and their sense of humor. And when they were around, I worked out harder. And it was a perfect trade because I love those guys. And I wouldn't have traded those workouts for anything. And that's what a good relationship is it's a good transaction. So a lot of relationships that you have from high school or middle school, your childhood, those are no longer good trades once you move into adulthood because people change and they start acquiring new skills and new ideas and new beliefs and new fears. And that can really counterbalance the trade, and people can start trading you junk. They can start ripping you off during these transactions. And some people who give you bad trades are people who think that it's okay to trade complaints or negativity or pessimism. People who can trade things that are actually bad. They're trying to offload their debt onto you. And when you hang out with them, you might be trying as hard as you can to give them good stuff. You try to support them. You try to lead them. You give them advice. You share life skills with them. You try to help them and make them a better person, but they have nothing to give you in turn, right? And this is where we get to a sensitive place because eventually you're going to have to decide, is it worth continuing to make these bad trades in the hope that I can eventually pull this person out of their rut and help them become a useful person to society? If this person's really depressed, if they don't know what to do with their lives, if they're always sad, they're complaining, they're negative, do I continue to make bad trades? What are the odds of this person actually changing? And that's when you have to start cutting off people who are bad trades. My friend, I have shared with you the basics of relational transactions, and we've established that your childhood friends starting to split off from you is okay, it's totally normal, it's natural, but now you're becoming an adult. You're in college, you're studying for the rest of your life. Now you need to begin making good relationships that are good transactions, that support you in your adult life with your adult ambitions, that will help you become a better person as an adult. And so the first suggestion I have for you is to just be more socially approachable. This is like the first step in meeting new people, not necessarily making friends, but just meeting people. And what I mean by that is just strike up a conversation with the person you're sitting next to in lecture, right? Smile at people you pass by on the sidewalk. Just practice like talking to people around you, strangers. Now, you didn't specify in your email if you're like really shy or an introvert or an extrovert. So I'm going to assume that you have a healthy, social aptitude. And I want you to just exercise that by approaching people and just talking to them. I've made a lot of friends in classes when I was in college. I always talked to people I sat next to. I tried to be polite, tried to smile. I hold doors open for people. Just be that way. Make yourself approachable. And people who are looking for good relationships, people who want to trade, make, relationship transactions, they will be attracted to you because they will see you as open, right? So if relationships are just transactions, everyone's a shop owner, right? And everyone has different things in their shop that they're willing to trade for good relationships. And if you want to get lots of business and have lots of friends, you got to make sure your open sign is on, right? You need to get one of those inflatable wavy arm men, put him out in the parking lot. And that means smiling and talking and interacting with people. People will come inside your shop and they'll start trading with you. I'm dragging this analogy way too far. So that's your first step. And then your second step is identifying what people value. Try to identify what people want to trade with you and ask yourself, like, what do I need in my life? Like, what about this person could I use and what could I give them? Because if you can understand basic human values and you can listen to people's stories, be genuinely curious. Ask them about their life. Ask them about what they want to do. Ask them about their past and the vision they have for their future. The more interested you are in listening to other people talk about themselves, the more successful you will be in every relationship in existence. Because that one of the bottom lines of human nature is people love to talk about themselves. So be interested in other people, and they will adore you, but they will also open up to you. They will start to trust you, and that will give you the insight that you need to decide whether or not this person is a good fit for your relationships. An easy way to give yourself an advantage would be to join some organizations or groups or clubs that have people with similar interests, because that's the first reason why people join an organization or a club or a group. They do it because they want to be around like-minded people, and that already predisposes them to being open to new friendships. So like if you're a swimmer, go join a swim club, or if you want to get better at public speaking or you enjoy public speaking, go join Toastmasters. And the people that you find in those groups are already going to have shared interests with you. They're already predisposed and open to creating new relationships, and that's just a huge advantage. That eliminates like half of the friend-making process for you. So go join organizations, and if you're in college, there's hundreds. But ultimately, good relationships, you can break them down like a transaction. You can use all kinds of tools to seek out and find people who are good fits, but ultimately, relationships just kind of come down to giving, right? Because people are going to be attracted to you because of what you offer them. And if you come to people with a giving hand, if you're positive, if you're smiling, you're encouraging, you're empathetic, you're supportive, and you're genuinely interested in talking to other people, you won't have trouble making friends. The only thing you might have trouble with is choosing the right people. Because when you're like that, you're going to attract everybody, and you might attract some negative people. So just be choosy with your friends. And if you do these things, and if you change the way you look at your relationships and you go out there and you make yourself available, you're going to have to start being choosy, because I promise you're going to start getting swamped with people who just want to be near you. But anyways, I hope that advice was helpful to you. It will help you find and establish new relationships. But also, importantly, again, I just want to revisit, don't bring yourself down because you've lost childhood friends. That's totally normal. What you can do is reconnect with them, right? Every couple months, shoot them a text message or invite them over for a Christmas party and take time to reconnect with them, because a lot of those people are still going to be great relationships, right? They might not be your best friend anymore. They might not have a ton of common interests, but they do share their memories and their past and their experiences with you. And if you have good childhood memories with those friends from your adolescence, that is common ground. No matter how different they may be now, you still share that background. And that's enough to at least, go get lunch once a year or come to a Christmas party or something like that. And there's no reason you shouldn't keep those people around, because even people who have become radically different than you still offer a different perspective, and they offer unique knowledge and insights and skills and experiences, and you can still support each other. So, don't write off those relationships, but also don't be too hard on yourself because you're becoming an adult. This stuff can be kind of complicated, but I promise the more you do, the more pain you go through, and the longer you're alive, the better you'll get at these things. So just believe in yourself, have confidence, employ the tools that I gave you, and you'll be fine. You're going to make friends. You're going to find your way through life. We all do, and billions of people have done it before you. So I hope that helped. Good luck, my friend. If any of you guys watching have questions you want to ask me about fitness, health, mindset, productivity, business, or just life in general, you can leave them in the comments or shoot them to my email, which is down in the description. You can also check out my website, andrewwuellner.com, to learn more about me, what I do, what products and services I offer. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, leave a like. I want to keep sharing stuff with you guys, and as always, I appreciate the interaction, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.